open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
And good day. Thank you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott, bringing you some truth for our time, and tell me it is much needed truth for our time. And we thank Mack for sharing his air with us. On Restoring Hope, Mack usually gives you the help on an individual level for restoring lives, getting rid of destructive lifestyles and finding deliverance. And I usually come at it from a cultural or a civic perspective in helping you find ways to have real hope, honest hope, and solutions in your community, improving your community, working with our Constitution, honoring our Constitution, understanding our Constitution, that we can uphold one of the greatest documents on earth that has given more liberty and more freedom, and is now the longest lasting document of its type. For a young country, a relatively young country, we have one of the oldest living governing documents. And so, but we need to uphold it and protect it. And much of what we're seeing today, the problems we're seeing today, are simply, they're not because the Constitution is outdated. There is a move to redo the Constitution. I tell you, it does not need to happen. The Constitution is not the problem. It's the fact that we no longer uphold the Constitution, and we're allowing unconstitutional acts to take place in our legislatures, in our Congress, and in our executive branch. And joining me today is going to be Sheriff Mack. Sheriff Mack, Richard Ivan Mack is his name, but I think most of the country knows him as Sheriff Mack. He's been a guest with us on several different networks, and we've talked about his book, The County Sheriff, America's Last Best Hope, in fact, on one of our previous shows. People in Iowa heard his message and were so taken by it that they donated the money to have a book sent to every county sheriff in Iowa. That's 99 county sheriffs. And so my thanks to our listeners, our faithful listeners who made that possible, but to Sheriff Mack, who was obedient and wrote the book. And let me also just say, sometimes we have differing faiths, differing beliefs, but when we can come together to do the right thing, I say we do it. And so with that, I'm pleased to have Sheriff Mack join me. Thanks for joining in today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a blistery, windy day here in downtown Washington, D.C.
So let's tell our listeners it's December 10th. It's a march in D.C., though not a march like we see on TV, but you are heading to office, congressional members, opposing unlawful acts, and just instructing them on what the Constitution is. Give our listeners an update on what you're doing.
Well, we started last night with a lot of sheriffs coming into town, and we were kind of devising a plan of action while we were having dinner. And then this morning, we already met with Senator Mike Lee from Utah, and he is actually fighting the NDAA. He's making a presentation on the Senate floor today opposing the NDAA and that we should be repealing that horrible law.
Explain to our listeners what NDAA is.
National Defense Authorization Act, which is the law that allows the president to declare whomever he wants to be a domestic terrorist or a threat. And if he declares that, then any person in America could be taken into custody and kept in custody until the perceived threat is over. You would have no constitutional rights. You would have no constitutional protections. And it would just be up to one man, the dictator in the White House, to determine if you go to jail and how long you go there for. So that's what he's fighting, and we were thrilled to find that out. We didn't know he was doing that until this morning.
I have had the honor of interviewing your Senator Lee, and I appreciate the work that he does very much on our behalf. Let's go back to this NDAA. I'm thrilled you're there. Let's give our people a little bit of history. If they don't know Sheriff Mack, you sued all the way to the U.S. Constitution. And was it
not the U.S. Constitution? I sued on behalf of the Constitution to preserve the Constitution. I went all the way to the United States Supreme Court against the Clinton administration. Yes, that is correct.
And let's finish that statement and watch the media never, ever really talked about, and people don't know, you won.
Yes, we won. The first time in history where a sheriff sued the federal government and won a case at the United States Supreme Court. Absolutely miraculous. And we're still fighting for that liberty today, and that's why sheriffs from all over the country are are doing that today. We're meeting with more congressmen today. In fact, we're going to a luncheon and a press conference here in about 20 minutes.
So I thank you for taking time out, because I know you. Are you speaking in that press conference?
Say that again?
Are you speaking in that press conference?
Yes,
So
I am. I've been asked to.
I thank you for taking time out. Both of our guests, Dr. Alveda King has taken time right off a flight, and you're taking time right before your speech. So I appreciate that, and we'll just pray that God give you the words in which you're going to speak on that press conference on our behalf. And so where can folks tune in or find in the archives? Where will they be able to see that press conference? Will it be online somewhere?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that it is, but a lot of the national media are going to be there. So it might be on Fox or CNN or C-SPAN or whatever. I'm not sure who's going to be there, but we've been getting calls from the national media right and left quite a bit. What I would tell all of your listeners, go to cspoa.org, cspoa.org, and we'll have archive information there. And also, we want all of them to know that the sheriffs of this country are here fighting for them today. And I'm not kidding you. It really is a fight. And we're trying our best to keep this process peaceful and effective in restoring the Constitution as the supreme law of the land, as you were alluding to earlier.
And let us just take note. While many are taking shots, I hate to use that, no pun intended, but they're making attacks on our law enforcement, our police officers, and we in no way condone police brutality or some of the acts that we've seen on video. But in most cases, those who are in law enforcement are law-abiding citizens who are serving our communities at risk, at their own risk every day, leaving the house, never knowing if they really will return or not safely as they left. And so I want to thank you, one, for what all of you do as sheriffs, as even the police officers that we have as well. But this is your National Sheriff's Association. And so give us the acronym, what the CSPOA stands for.
Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Matter of fact, I have a constitutional sheriff standing right next to me. Sheriff Glenn Palmer from Grant County, Oregon, is here helping us with this effort, and he went to our meeting with us with Senator Lee just a few minutes ago.
And thank him for his service as well. And if he wants to add in, he's welcome to jump on this conversation with you.
Well, we've got to get, I hate to cut you off, but we've got to get, and I've been getting about 3 other calls while I was on this one. So we've just got such a tight schedule today, and so many people are trying to get a hold of me, and so I'm going to have to bid you a fond farewell. But I'm so glad you're there. I appreciate the time, and we'll just be following the news on this. You should be seeing this, and we will, if anybody wants to get on our website and get our email so that we can get them the information on how we're going to follow up with this event today.
And the website again is cspoa.org.
That is correct. Thank you.
Well, Sheriff Mack, thank you so much for giving us your time. I've been talking with Sheriff Mack. Richard Ivan Mack is how some of you may know him. The book that I was talking about was The County Sheriff, America's Last Best Hope. He is with hundreds of county sheriffs, your county sheriffs. And I should have asked if they were spending their own money for this. To travel out there and speak on your behalf to your congressional members, whether it is Mike Lee, as they're talking about, or whether it is some of the other congressional members they'll be speaking with as well, helping them understand, one, the Constitution, the need to uphold the Constitution, and two, upholding the Constitution from the executive branch as well. And I'm not sure, Sheriff, is there somebody else on the phone? Is Glenn Palmer there?
Sheriff Palmer is right here.
Okay, so Sheriff Palmer, thank you for making the trip to D.C. Let me just ask, are the sheriffs that are there on their own money?
You know what, I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly CSPOA, I believe, is funding.
I hope so,
Yep.
To be honest with you. I mean, to ask these folks to go is one thing, but to have to fund it. Our county sheriffs, this is not a lucrative field. You don't go into this field to make money. when most people come in to be a sheriff, it's out of a heart of service for their community. And I'm getting quite a bit of wind in the background there.
It's really windy. It's really windy here in Washington, and
we all knew that there was a lot of wind in Washington D.C., didn't we? But now you're actually talking about weather, and it's coming into the phone. But Sheriff Palmer, give us your thoughts. What do you hope to see the outcome of your day today?
What would be nice is to see Congress take their authority, and maybe if we have a meeting with the right people, we can get them to defund the Obamacare. Maybe we could. We're mostly dealing with the amnesty issues, and what I'd like to see is that the president stay within his limits of power and let Congress do their job.
And did you mention immigration?
Yes.
And so tell us.
That was the amnesty part of it, yeah.
Yeah. So what can county sheriffs do in their own area? And there are things that county sheriffs can do when the federal government refuses to fulfill their obligations.
Hey, sorry, this is Sheriff Mack. I've got to go. I've got these calls. I've got some other people from the press. I appreciate your time so much, and all your listeners. Tell everybody thanks and to be praying for us.
We will be doing that. Thank you so much for your service there, and be safe, and thank you for spending your time doing that. So I think we've had to say goodbye to Glenn Palmer as well, because I think he was on the Sheriff Mack's phone. Online, on hold, do we have Sam Bushman? Very good. We'll go to Sam Bushman, and Sheriff Bushman can join us as well. Sheriff, where is it that you're from?
I'm actually not a sheriff. I'm the vice president of operations of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and the nationally syndicated talk show host. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Vice president of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association.
Right, vice president of operations, so I deal with the day-to-day events. We're supporting the Sheriff's Caravan today primarily to focus on immigration, and our goal is to build a coalition with congressmen and senators and sheriffs across the country. And the goal is to work together and realize that there's checks and balances in America, and we need sheriffs to have a seat at the table. They're the ones on the ground day-to-day dealing with the immigration issues, and they basically are claiming, hey, we have not been consulted, we have not been properly represented at the table, and we're demanding a seat at the table for discussion.
And we thank you for doing that. I was asking one of the other gentlemen if the sheriffs had to pay for their own way out there because...
Yeah, most of the sheriffs are paying their own way.
Wow.
Some of them have been supported by the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. So any donations at cspoa.org is always valuable. That's cspoa.org. But most of the sheriffs have paid their own way. It's not a Republican or a Democrat or a liberal or conservative issue at all. It's merely sheriffs need a seat at the table when we discuss these serious, vital issues relating to the border.
And we are so pleased that you are there, and I hope you can get several meetings in today. I was asking Sheriff...
We just got done meeting with Senator Mike Lee, and now we're going to a big luncheon and then a press conference, and we've got several appointments with congressmen and senators after that as well.
And I was asking Sheriff Mack, where can those who are listening right now who had no idea you were going, and the mainstream media will likely not cover what you're doing, where can we get coverage? Where can we see the press conference? Will you have it on your website later?
Well, I don't know if they're going to have a live version of the press conference or not, but at my website, libertyroundtable.com, I will be reporting on the events.
libertyroundtable.com, for those of you listening, libertyroundtable.com.
And then cspoa.org as well.
And the CSPOA, for those listening, cspoa.org. And, of course, you can always check us out on Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. We just keep the archives right there for you. Easy to find, Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. Look for the date, December 10th, 2014, which is the day the sheriffs are marching on Washington, D.C. Tell us on immigration. I mean, people are wringing their hands. The folks you're going to talk to who can make a difference act like their hands are tied. What can they do?
Well, first off, my response is when we suggest their hands are tied, it's a lie. And let me give you an example to make the point. We want to call it Obamacare when it comes to health care, but you understand that Obama is not even the proper branch of government to create any kind of law. Okay? That's the legislature. So the House and Senate want to blame it on the president, but the truth is they're the ones that created it, they're the ones that passed it, and they're the ones that are currently funding it. Since the Republicans have control of the House currently, and pretty soon the House and the Senate, the idea that they can do nothing about it is an absolute lie. The same thing is true on immigration. The Congress is a group that crafts our laws, and if the laws are broken, who do you look to? Congress. So the president has taken belligerent, unconstitutional action. That's true. However, the answers simply lie in Congress, holding the president accountable for his actions. Maybe impeachment might be an idea. Certainly defunding his agenda might be an idea. But it all starts with our representatives. And what can you do? You can put pressure on your congressmen and your senators. You can meet them when they come home for Christmas in town hall meetings or go to their offices locally. If they don't know your name, if they don't know you by sight and by name, you're not doing a good enough job to influence them for your beliefs.
And so there's a challenge to everybody out there. We often give you action items on this show. That's the challenge. Does your congressman or congresswoman know you by name? Have they heard of you in their office? And of course, you want to be loving and kind. There is no need to be rude. There is no need to be threatening. Loving and kind. And once they find out they can trust you, that you'll provide good, solid, credible information, you'll find not only will they know your name, they'll be calling you. They're looking for help, and they want to know the truth. There are so many laws that are passed each session that it's hard for them to be an expert on each and every one. They need sources they can trust.
That might make the point. Let me give you this example. We went to Congress last September 17th, which happened to be Constitution Day. And I tried to get an appointment with my personal senator, Mike Lee. And I tried to do that for 5 months, and I did not get an appointment, believe it or not, even though I was willing to go 2,000 miles to Washington. But I did get to meet him and shake his hand because he has what's called Jello Day on Wednesday, where he actually lets people eat Jello. And I shook his hand and talked to him. But now that he knows my face, knows my name, he knows that I'm willing to go to Washington. I came back on this December 10th day, and believe it or not, it took me all of less than an hour to get an appointment, and he kept his appointment, and we met with him. So the idea that you cannot make a difference is bogus. The idea that they will not listen to you is false. The idea that you can have an influence and that you can make a difference with persistence if they know your name, if you come across respectfully and appropriately as you wisely counsel, as they make sure that they are polite but yet persistent.
Yeah.
I explained that I want to be the most polite, squeaky wheel you ever met, and I'm telling you, it gets you places. And so that's the contrast that gives you the point. If they know your name, if they know who you are, you will gain ground. But
Yes.
It won't happen with talk. It'll happen with literally making sure they know you by name.
Well, there's a Bible verse that talks about he who could be trustworthy and has kind words will be the friend of the king. And I think there's a lot of truth in that when you can give wise counsel. And also, just be bright, be brief, and be gone. They're very busy people, and you just don't have to have a lot of their time if you have your argument or you can articulate your discussion succinctly. I'm going to hold up for those of you who are watching on webcast1live.com. Webcast1live.com is where we do this program each day, each Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Time. It is the Imprimis. This one is the September 2014, The History and Danger of Administrative Law by Philip Hamburger, a Columbia Law School. What we're talking about is when the administrative branch, the executive branch, decides through rules and regulations and bureaucracies that they're just going to change laws. And David Barton on our show November 5th, you can find on the archives on Tamara Scott Live on YouTube, discussed that 3,800 laws have been added. Hear what I'm saying, added, not passed. 3,800 new rules, regulations, laws, and these are laws that have fines with them and can carry, I think, penalties, have been passed since 2012 through your administrative branch, through rules and regulations.
Just another reason to push to impeach Obama.
But it's not just there, in our states as well. Here in Iowa, our state legislature handed over the setting of standards, educational standards, to the State Department of Education. It is to be done, if done, by the legislative branch so that you can hold them accountable, vote them in, or vote them out. You should not be making laws, setting those laws in the state offices where you can't vote people out of office. And that happens through the Common Core.
Michael Farouk, a well-known constitutional educator, uses the Declaration of Independence term to describe that, and it's called pretend legislation.
Only the problem is with pretend legislation, we have penalties and fines that are coming with it. And this is the fight in the Common Core. And let me also then inform our listeners as well. If you go to, I think it's 3 Moms Against Common Core, 3 Moms Against Common Core, they're talking about the fact that the Department of Justice, not even the Department of Education, the Department of Justice has a plan to phase out the authority of the states. They are changing, they are amending the elementary Secondary Education Act to phase out the authority of the states to define modified academic achievement standards and develop alternate assessments based on those modified okay, that gets into a bunch of words, but here's what you need to know. It's because it's coming through with the Common Core war that we've been talking about a lot on this program. This is the warning we've been giving you. And now it's through the Department of Justice, of all things, not even the Department of Education. They're changing what you know as law. And this happens too often. So I'm talking right now with Sam Bushman, who is the Vice President of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. They are in Washington, D.C., December 10th, 2014, walking on your behalf in the cold, blustery weather, office to office, meeting with congressional members to restore what we have lost, what we have given away, what the Magna Carta began centuries ago, removing the divine right of kings and giving that authority to we the people. And here we are voluntarily handing it back over to those who will use it against us, who are power hungry and cannot be voted out of office. Sam, did I round that up pretty good?
You did a wonderful job. The last thing I kind of want to say is this. I think it's important that you develop a personal relationship with your sheriffs. Teach them to be constitutional sheriffs. Let them know that we have their back. They have our back. We can work together for solutions, and the government that governs closest to you governs best.
Absolutely.
And that's why the county sheriff has so much authority and power within his jurisdiction. And what he needs to know is that he's got the people on his side as he defends liberty, as he acts as the protector of the people, as he intercedes and defends on your behalf and acts as a buffer between out-of-control government and the people. We need to champion him. If you don't have a constitutional sheriff, you flat out need to elect one.
And so for those, that is perfect advice, wonderful advice to get to know your local county sheriff. And oftentimes we blame Washington, but you're right. We need to start right here at home, I say, with our families. When you have healthy families, society benefits. When you have broken families.
In fact, families are the fundamental unit of society.
Yep. Society pays the cost when the family is broken. So start at home, and right now is a perfect time with the Christmas season. Start over if you need to. You can't have peace across the globe if you can't have peace across the dining room table, especially
Can I make one quick point, and then I got to go. We're up against another meeting here, but really quick, I want to make the point. A lot of people believe the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, CSPOA.org, is an organization for sheriffs. That is correct. However, that does not mean that we don't want members of the CSPOA from the public. You can support your sheriff. If we get literally millions of members United States wide, we can literally put pressure on sheriffs to do the right thing. It's all about accountability, and that's where the American people come in. So become a member of the CSPOA today, CSPOA.org. Thanks so much for your time.
Sam, I have one more question for you before you go.
Sure.
Is there literature or a pamphlet that we can get from that organization that we can take to our sheriff to kind of introduce
in
ourselves?
Fact, we have what's called the CSPOA resolution. It's a single-page, one-side document. It's got 8 bullet points or initiatives in it. And what you can do is sign that document yourself and turn it in and ask your sheriff to sign the CSPOA resolution, which is a standing up against anybody who is willing to break the law, including the government. We expect all to obey the law. This is a nation of laws, and the resolution puts your sheriff on the right side of constitutional law to defend our republic.
Sam Bushman has been my guest, along with Glenn Palmer from Oregon and Sheriff Mack. We thank all of you, one, for your service to your communities and providing law enforcement, protecting us, but thank you for going on our behalf to Washington, D.C. today to talk to our legislators, our congressional members, and remind them of their responsibility to uphold our Constitution, but to give them the empowerment, to give them the equipment with information, equipping them with ideas and ways that they can stand strong. So if you want more information on Sam, libertyroundtable.com. Again, the other website was CSPOA, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association.org. I am Tamara Scott. You can find us on Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. You can always get the archive, the December 10th show. You can also join us for the live taping each Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Central Time on webcast1live.com. We thank Christians for America for making it possible for us to get information to you, christiansforamerica.com and Webcast One Live Studios. It's up to you, folks. Here we are in the beautiful holy season, and we're about to lose all the blessings and the anointings we've had in this country. Be encouraged, but make it happen and never be complacent. Thanks.